So, today we're going to dig into something pretty fascinating from recent political research. It's this idea that certain leaders, even though they're decades and continents apart, use a communication playbook that is strikingly similar. Our goal here is just to lay out what these researchers found, totally neutral, and break down the techniques they've identified. So, the big question this research really tries to tackle is this: how do certain leaders talk? Is there an actual formula they follow? A kind of rhetorical playbook they use to build and then hold on to a movement? Let's dive in and see what the analysis uncovered. All right, so here's the game plan. We're going to walk through this playbook step by step. We'll start with how a crisis gets framed, then look at how an enemy is created, how emotions are manipulated, and finally, how a savior is presented. Okay, before we jump in, something really important to get straight. This analysis is purely about a method of communication. We're not saying these leaders or what they did are the same, not at all. This is all about looking at a specific pattern of how they talk that researchers have identified. So what exactly are we talking about when we say authoritarian rhetoric? Well, according to the research, it's a style that really boils down to three key things: fear, division, and devotion. The whole point is to kind of short-circuit rational debate and connect followers directly and emotionally to one leader. Let's use that as our foundation. All right, step one. It all kicks off with something called the crisis narrative. The very first move is to convince people that their country isn't just having a tough time. No, it's on the brink of collapse. It's been humiliated, it's broken, and it's decaying from the inside out. And you can really see the parallel in how this is framed, right? Both of these statements paint this vivid picture of a nation that's just in a state of total decay. This idea of carnage or betrayal, that's not just complaining. It's setting the stage for someone to come in and save the day. And here's the kicker. See how that crisis is instantly linked to the solution? The problem, this national decline, is framed in a way that it can only be solved by one thing: a new leadership. And that new leadership, surprise, surprise, is embodied by the speaker themselves. Okay, so you've got your crisis. Now what? You need someone to blame. And that's step two, forging an enemy. This is a really powerful move because it takes all these complicated, messy problems, like the economy or cultural shifts, and boils them down to one single, easy-to-hate group that can be targeted. And again, the research points to this really clear parallel in who gets chosen as the scapegoat. It doesn't really matter who the group is, whether it's traitors within or the deep state. The psychological function is exactly the same. Create a really strong us versus them feeling and focus all of that public fear and anger onto one single enemy. This quote is just such a stark example of this technique in action, isn't it? It just completely flattens a huge, complex issue like immigration into this one scary, simple image of a dangerous other. And all of this leads us to what is basically the engine of this entire playbook: the emotional cycle. The research argues this isn't just random emotional talk. It's a very deliberate kind of 1-2-3 punch designed to make an audience feel totally dependent on the leader for their safety and for their salvation. So, this sequence is absolutely key. Check it out. First, you ramp up the fear with these apocalyptic warnings. Then you give them an outlet for that fear, someone to be angry at, often by dehumanizing them. And only then, when everyone's scared and angry, do you step in as the only one who can offer protection. A really crucial tactic for directing that anger is dehumanization. When you call a group parasites or animals, you're essentially stripping away their humanity. And what that does psychologically is it makes hostility toward them feel not just okay, but necessary. It feels like self-defense. And look at how these quotes just crank the stakes up to 11. Suddenly, we're not talking about policy anymore. We're talking about the literal survival of the nation. And when things feel that desperate, well, that's the perfect environment for a strong leader to emerge as the only possible solution. And that, of course, brings us to the final step of the whole playbook. After creating a crisis, forging an enemy, and whipping up an emotional storm, the leader steps into the spotlight and basically says, "I am the one. I am the only one who can fix this." This right here, this is the end game. What the analysis points to is this moment where the leader and the nation become one and the same. Loyalty to the country and loyalty to the man are now indistinguishable. They're not just a politician anymore. They are the nation. They are its will, its destiny, all wrapped up in one person. Wow. This quote is such a perfect example of that leader as protector idea. See what's happening? Any criticism of him is twisted into an attack on you.
He's not the target. He's just your shield, your guardian. It just perfectly reinforces that whole victim-savior dynamic that the entire playbook is built on.
Okay, so let's zoom out and pull all these pieces together. According to the analysis we're looking at, this isn't just a bunch of random angry speeches. It's a system, a repeatable, deliberate communication strategy with a very, very clear goal. You know, when you lay it all out in a table like this, the parallels are kind of hard to ignore. It doesn't matter which category you look at, from national decline and scapegoating to fear and the cult of the leader, the rhetorical strategy is shockingly consistent. And ultimately, it's that repeating pattern that the researchers find so significant. So, what's the bottom line here? What does all of this add up to? Well, according to the research, the real strategy is to completely redefine what politics is about. It's not about policy or boring debates anymore. It becomes this high-stakes emotional drama, a nation in danger, a villain to hate, and one lone hero to save the day. And in that drama, loyalty to institutions, to ideas, to the process, all of that is supposed to be replaced with loyalty to one person. So, what we've walked through here is an analysis that lays out a really clear, step-by-step communication pattern. And it leaves us with this final powerful question, taken straight from the research itself. If being able to see and recognize this rhetorical playbook is the first step, what comes next?